Salesflare, and this is Founder Coffee. Every 2 weeks, I have coffee with a different founder. We discuss life, passions, learnings, in an intimate talk, getting to know the person behind the company. For this first pilot episode, I was lucky to talk with Adam Hempy of Better Proposals. Since last year, when Salesflare and Better Proposals were on AppSumo at the same time, we talk with each other on a regular basis, and you could say we have become founder friends. Adam is one of the most honest, authentic, and driven startup founders I know. He will never shy away from saying what's on his mind, which makes him the perfect first guest for this series of personal founder talks. Welcome, Adam. You are founder of Better Proposals. What does Better Proposals do exactly?
So it helps freelancers, service businesses, anybody that would usually write a proposal or a quote and send it to somebody with the aim of winning some business. So it saves you the pain and hassle of designing this whole thing in Microsoft Word or InDesign or some other method, or using your built-in quote functionality in your own invoicing software. So it saves using all of that and actually sends something that's A, looks really smart, B, it saves you a load of time, and sort of lastly has a load of best practices for sales already built into the templates and the functionality and everything else. So it means that you can win work an awful lot quicker, and more of it as well.
So in short, it's like the best proposal tool out there, or
yeah, I'd say so. It'd be stupid if I said no, wouldn't it?
And what made you start Better Proposals? When did it exactly happen? Like, what were you working on? Where were you? With whom?
So we ran a software company at the time, and we would go into companies. They were, and we'd come out with these proposals and have to spend sort of several days writing these things. So we're absolutely massive for 30, 40, 50,000 pound software projects. And it was a massive deal if you won one of these things or not, because you only really did sort of 3 or 4 projects in a year. So, if you win it, it makes a huge difference to your life and otherwise. And so I'm doing these things in InDesign at the time. And I would spend absolutely days on them and making sure that they were right and making sure they looked good and making sure the copy was good. And and then you'd send it and you'd hear nothing. You're like, oh, okay. Did they get it? I mean, it was like a 20 meg PDF. I mean, what happened? Did it even get there? Am I not chasing this up because I think it's too soon? Like, you had no visibility, no idea. So there was a bit of downtime. So I said to our tech team, look, can you just make something web-based that means that we can see who's opened it and what they've looked at? That way I'll know when they get it and I can follow up accordingly. So we did that. Obviously, early versions were very scrappy, very bad, but the concept was really good. So that was about 5 and a bit years ago, I'd say. And it's just sat there as like this little internal tool that we've used for years. And about 4 years ago, we started it up as its own actual product, as a side project. And 2 years ago, we cut away everything else and focused on it full time.
Yeah. What did that company do that you were working on?
So basically what it was I'm completely autistic, right? So I love logic. I love finding the weaknesses in things and then trying to figure out how to fix it. So I really like the idea of going into different companies, finding out where their admin weaknesses were, so understanding their processes. And then our software company would basically build something that automated all of those processes. So in the process of doing this, I wrote a book called Automate Your Business. And that did quite well, actually. We used it as a lead magnet, but we physically printed it and actually sent it to people. Gone are the days with the PDFs, but basically just actually sent it to people. And that did really, really well for us. So that was what we did for several years, just going into companies, asking them tons of different questions, figuring out what it was that worked, what it was that didn't, and then fixing all the broken bits.
So was it a SaaS product or was it
No, there was custom software. It was custom for each client. Cool. So it was fine for a bit, but it did get to a point where we're thinking, okay, we either need to grow this business massive in term, or we're going to have to either scale back or do something to change it, because it's just sort of hitting the limits all over the place, and all working far too hard for not enough money.
Yeah. So Better Proposals is your first actual SaaS company?
Yeah, the first one that's done well, but I wouldn't say it's the first time we've tried to build a software product. We've actually built quite a few. Never really thought about it, to be honest, until you said it. But we built a product called AdBook, which was a really, really, really... every one of these was bad, by the way. There was no good one. But he has a really, really, really simple CRM, which is basically is an address book. That's literally all it was, with a notes field attached to it. So we made that, and I suppose the earliest working version of Better Proposals, and where it all, I guess, really started, was a product that we made called SignTick, which was literally just, I guess, what you'd know as, EchoSign or DocuSign or HelloSign today. So it was purely just document signing, and then we started using it for quotes, and then and that was that, really. Trying to think, we had the Easy Site. The Easy Site, that was like probably about 12 years ago. We had this this little, like, I mean, it wouldn't work with WordPress now these days, that being so popular, but it was a kind of pre-WordPress in a way. But yeah, you just had these little themes and you dragged them in and, basically made a website. But yeah, interesting. Fun reminiscing about that.
How did you exactly get into startup projects? Was it web design first that you did, or? Yeah,
it was. It was. I started doing websites when I was super, super, super young, and then it was just like friends, dads that needed websites. Maybe 14.
Me too, actually.
But yeah. It's fun. I'm trying to think of like the first. I remember playing around. What was it called? Front Page? Microsoft Front Page? Was that it?
Microsoft Front Page, yeah.
Is that the one?
My website's in Flash, but I used Front Page as well.
Yeah, I remember playing around. I think the one of my highlights was figuring out how to do DHTML, dynamic HTML. So you could make shit like fly across the page and do all sorts of ridiculous stuff. It was good fun. It was good fun.
So the little project, it kind of grew on you. Let's say.
Yeah, I mean, I think with all of it, you do these things with the best of intentions. If you're not going into something like this with the intention of it being something remotely successful, then you're kind of not going to do the things you need to do in order to make it sort of successful and actually work. But at the same time, I mean, a weird way, I'm almost glad some of it didn't work, because in every way, I mean, if you just take, SignTick, AdBook, and the Easy Site, those three things, without doing those three things, Better Proposals would either A, not exist, and if it did exist, it would be absolutely awful. Yeah. The digital signature thing being something that was a key component in SignTick, that's obviously very prominent in Better Proposals, almost exactly the same technology, actually. AdBook, really taught us about organization and structure and layering of information and things like that. I mean, obviously you guys would have gone through this a lot at Salesflare as well. And then, the Easy Site really just taught us, I'm trying to say it without it sounding awful and bad, but we dealt with clients that didn't really know what anything was. They, we were the most technical people they knew. And these are the kind of people that would put, a drink in the CD holder, in the CD drive, and say, I found the CD, the cup holder, but I haven't found the CD drive. That was literally our client base at the time. So we were designing the Easy Site for people like that. So what that taught us was really challenge and question your copy, and you can't put too much information in, keep it nice and short, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of learnings with these things, and I wouldn't trade any of them, even though none of those three things were successful. I wouldn't trade any of them for the world.
Yeah, understand. Is this something that is influenced by your family? What kind of family did you grow up in?
My mum's a teacher, and my dad's an engineer, not a programming engineer. He he fixes. I like to say he's a drug dealer because he works for a drugs company, a legal one. He basically fixes or maintains the heavy duty scales and everything else like that goes through. So he does a lot of that. My mum's a teacher. So when I said at 15, 16 years old, I want to start my own business, neither of those two have got a clue what anything other than 9 to 5 is. So it's a bit of a challenge. But I think nowadays they're pretty convinced I was right.
Yeah. You kind of started with the small projects and it,
Yeah. There wasn't a lot of, there's a lot of love, but not a lot of good education going on from like a business perspective. Like I charged somebody £600 for a website once. This was up from 300. This is my rate. And my mum's response was, how could you charge somebody so much money? You're such a rip-off. You're grounded. That was her response. So it was not exactly an awful lot of positive encouragement to increase my prices. Yeah. So I got grounded for increasing my prices, which meant I couldn't go on any more meetings that week. So conundrum.
What did you study then in high school? Is it something related or?
Not really sure. I mean, I'm 33 now. So when I did my school stuff, we were the last year group that didn't have any computer, anything related to our education. The year below us, they started with like some sort of qualification or something in computing and word processing and all that kind of basic stuff. But we were the last group that never had, they just didn't even have a qualification for it. So I did really bad at school, actually. I just was C's and D's across the board. My mum's a teacher, and I know I was C's and D's. She couldn't have been more disappointed in me.
Yeah.
It's quite funny, actually.
Did you ever have a quote-unquote real job? Or?
Yeah, I've had a couple. My first ever real job was working at Tesco's, which was a supermarket, to anyone that doesn't know. If you've got anybody that's listening, what would the American equivalent be? Like Walmart, I guess. But so, yeah, it's basically the biggest supermarket. So I did that, and I was stacking all the news and magazines and newspapers and stuff like that, sorting all those out. That was my first job. Then I quit that, and then I went to McDonald's for like an hour and a half. I was like, fuck this. No way. I got fired from Tesco's for being too efficient. I went to McDonald's because I couldn't bear to go home without another job. Fear of getting shouted at. So, I went there, lasted a few hours, left, and then spent a few months trying to get some web design clients.
Yeah.
And then, I had 2 other jobs. One was working for a sign company in sales, and another one was working like a signage company. So like you'd, like shop signage, things like that. So I worked sort of doing sales of that, which was pretty interesting, actually. It kind of taught me a little bit about, the company was about 12, 15 people. And it was an interesting size of business, actually, because there was clearly a sales department, which was me and one other guy. Then there was the production team, which was split into 2 bits. It was quite nice to sort of see a process there, but it was small enough that everybody knew everybody. There was lots of skill overlap, but it was quite interesting to sort of see how a company grew and split up departments. That was kind of interesting to see that. And then the only other job I've ever had, about 10 years ago, spent a year working with a company called Pure, which is an email marketing company. So this was selling to enterprise, selling email marketing to enterprise in a world where MailChimp wasn't MailChimp, basically. So that was still good fun. Learned a lot about sort of selling there and, getting your recurring revenue up and what makes people make decisions and the best ways to sell software as a service. So that was very interesting.
Yeah, I bet. Talking about making startups successful, which other startup or founder do you look up to and why?
Good question. I think it's varied a lot. I think in where we're at, I mean, I know that we don't, we're on similar-ish paths, I suppose. But I find that the things that are important to me, like this week, are different than the things that were important to me last week. So I don't really like follow any particular. I suppose if I had to answer, I would say the guys over at Basecamp. They've probably got the most consistent message that has constantly resonated with the way that I want to run my business. Like, I don't really believe in the whole VC thing. I think there's millions of different ways of doing it, and you don't need to do that. Obviously, there's exceptions, but on the most part, bootstrapping is entirely possible. The idea of not needing to work 160 hours a week, having a no list instead of a yes list, that's things like that have always been true. And so I suppose if I had to look up to anybody, it would be Jason Fried and David Hansen over at Basecamp. But I suppose on a slightly more macro level, or micro level, I guess, it changes really frequently because the whole landscape of working in a SaaS business it changes so much. So in terms of like hiring, that wasn't even a remote concern, and outsourcing and things like that wasn't even a concern to me like 8 weeks ago. Whereas now it's literally all I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it's so amazing how quick it changes. So if you're stuck on what one person or what one company is sort of teaching, then you might not get the things that you need to get. So it's sort of good to have an open mind and just sort of bring in information as and when you need it.
Yeah, the way I hear it, you're looking more to have a bootstrapped startup than a VC funded one. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. I like the idea of control. Like if we decide to take our product in a slightly different direction, I don't want to have to clear that with 16 layers of venture capital management and whatever. And also I don't like the path that the VC world takes you down. Like if you take on funding, generally you're signing yourself. I mean, I'm totally overgeneralizing here, but you generally sign yourself up to a certain set of things. Like you have to work towards getting that big exit, and that means either selling the company or going public or it fails, and that's pretty much it. There isn't any middle ground where everybody's just happy to have a nice, consistent, healthy growth and grow your team as and when you need it. And everybody has a good life. Nobody's working too hard, but we're all challenging ourselves anyway. Like, there's no concept of that seemingly in the VC world. It's all go hard or go home by any means necessary, and that's it. And I don't know, that doesn't really, maybe it's because I'm an old man now, but it doesn't really, maybe that would be cool with my 24-year-old self, but at the age of 33, I don't want to boss anymore.
Okay, so for you, Better Proposal is more of it's more from a lifestyle standpoint than building something, or
yeah. I mean, I think you can do both. I don't know that they need to be completely. I don't think that it's one or the other. I think you can have a great life, do the things you want to do, and and still build a great business as well. I mean, sure, it might not be as quick. That's you've got to accept that part. If you're going to go down the bootstrap route, it is going to be slower than if you had 10 million quid to spend. You're obviously going to be able to do things quicker if you've got a huge amount of money in the bank. But I don't think you don't see why it needs to be a choice. I mean, something that's incredibly important to me is making sure that I have a nice chill summer. I enjoy festivals. I enjoy going and spending time with my friends in different parts of the world. And that's something that's super important to me. If I had a venture-backed company, that would pretty much not be non-existent. There's no way you can turn around to any VC and be like, yeah, it's cool. Like, I'm just going to go hang out in, Italy or Croatia for the summer and see you guys at the end of August. Like, nah, that's not going to happen. It's not going to fly. And you've got no way of convincing anybody that's a good way of running a business, even though there's nothing wrong with it. So I don't know. I mean, that's just me. I think you can do both. But.
Yeah. So you're looking to grow this into a big company still?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not like I'm looking to sort of just keep the thing as small as possible, but I don't want to grow unnecessarily. And I think that's definitely a small point. Like I think a lot of people think of bootstrap companies, they think small companies, and I don't think that's necessarily right. There's tons and tons and tons of bootstrap companies that are massive. I mean, perhaps two of the biggest examples would be MailChimp and Basecamp. I mean, you think project management, you think Basecamp. You think email marketing, you think MailChimp, and neither of those two have taken any funding on. So, but what have they got in common? They've both, yes, they started and they got in at a very good time, but they have been there and they've not changed their business. They've changed how they've done things. They've adapted, but they've not changed the fundamentals, which is we're an email marketing company. We're here to make email simpler. Email isn't going anywhere. Running projects isn't going anywhere. And those two companies, I think, can be more of an inspiration to founders than probably you'd think, because they're just sort of doing things, I believe, the right way, not growing unnecessarily quickly. Yes, they've grown quickly. Yes, they're big companies, but they haven't grown unnecessarily fast.
Get it. You think if you'd win the lottery tomorrow, you'd still be working on Better Proposals?
100%. I can't think of anything else I'd rather do.
Okay.
That sounds crazy, but I wouldn't change anything. I'd probably move somewhere different, live somewhere slightly different, as maybe like build my dream house or something, and have my perfect work set up from that perspective. But I wouldn't change my day. I haven't set an alarm for. The only time I ever set an alarm is when I'm getting up to go on holiday somewhere.
Yeah.
And I love that freedom. And I love that idea that if I get to 10:30 at night and I think, oh, do you know what? I'm feeling a good 4-hour stint coming on here. Like, let's go. I want that to be okay and not have to think, oh shit, but I've got to get up and get into the office for 8 tomorrow. So you set little rules. Like, I don't ever take a phone call before 11 o'clock in the morning. That's because I know that I will never sleep in that long. And if I do decide to have something that's, work late or whatever, I'm not going to be winding anybody else up or moving their schedule around. And it also allows me to get stuff done in the morning. And so I don't know, it's just creating little rules for yourself. You don't have to go full tilt with it, but I do find that realizing that you are actually in control of your own day and removing some of the things that maybe you aren't in control of and just kind of getting rid of them or working them out and having more and more of your day where you think, actually, I am in complete control of this now.
Yeah. What do you spend most of your work time on right now? Like, how does your day look?
At the moment, like the last couple of weeks, it's been more writing instructions for other people, dishing out other tasks. It's been things like that. But it's I'm a designer by trade, so I'm doing anything that involves design. I'm doing anything that involves marketing or writing generally falls to me. So I'm sort of taking care of that side of things, and then Sabrina's pretty much anything that's sort of development based and product based. So she's sort of doing her own thing as well. But mostly it's writing, it's design, it's improving things, looking at stuff that we made decisions about 6 months ago and just putting it through the filter. Does this still make sense? Is this still the best way to explain that? With my new understanding of what customers want and the questions that you get every day, is that still relevant? And just constantly going through little things like, we've just rehashed all of our templates. Every single one of them has cost us an absolute fortune, but it's very much worth it. And having to just go through now and think, and that came from simply opening up the templates and just looking at them and going, is this the best advert for our company? If I was trying to sell this to somebody and all I could show them was one thing, would this be it? And the answer was no. So I'm like, okay, what can we do then? Is this as good as our templates can look? Absolutely not. But why are we not showcasing that? So that led me to sort of look back through and get in touch with some designers that I knew and said, look, the floor is yours. Go nuts and make these things look as good as possible. And now we're sort of going down the route of pushing those out.
A phase of optimization now rather than really pushing growth.
I mean, I think a lot of it is the same. I mean, we just I rehashed our homepage a couple of weekends ago, and it looks like conversions of sort of from free to sign up or visitor to sign up have gone up by about 1%, which is kind of good. But yeah, that's like one little thing, and you just have to constantly go through and look at that stuff. So optimization and growth and things. I mean, in a lot of ways, I look at it as it's kind of the same stuff. You know, like you're taking something that's already there and improving it, or you're looking at what you're not doing, and then sort of improving that by kind of actually getting on with it and doing it. But yeah, I think that honestly, the only thing that I find a little bit difficult sometimes is this like no list. You know, what there's always a list of things to do, always. And it's unnecessary. You can find yourself putting yourself under like unnecessary pressure by, you know, thinking, oh, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, we've got to. And it's like you don't need to. You rarely is any of that on its own actually important. Like, yes, move towards your goals. Yes, do those things, but don't kill yourself, because there's no point, and it very rarely actually moves the needle that much. It's quite rare that something makes a huge difference like that. At least I've found, anyway.
Yeah. In your what can I say? Between you as co-founders, are you the one who usually puts the brake, or the one who is pushing the gas? Is the one who says no, or the one who says we have to do that?
It's a really good question, actually. I think it's a bit of both, actually. I do a lot of reading. I do more ideas come into my head than into Sabrina's. I don't mean that in like a negative way. It's just that I expose myself to things that are likely to influence the direction of the company. So like, I read a lot of blogs. Like you and I are in a couple of similar communities. I'm involved in that. She doesn't see any of that stuff. So she gets my filtered version of it. So usually I'm the one saying, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. And very often, if I sound excited enough, I can convince her it's a good idea. But it's really good and important to have somebody pushing back on some of your ideas, even the best ones.
Yeah,
because I mean, even the best ideas need to be fought for. And you know, we had something similar. It's only a tiny little thing, but we wanted to add a little feature to a part of the editor in Better Proposals. And we're both sitting there. I'm saying, yeah, it's fine. Let's do it like this. Let's do it like this. And we're both arguing for the same thing, but we how do I say it? Like, every new thing you do it doesn't have to replace something, but it has to earn its place. So if that's a new feature, if it's a new person in your business, if it's a new marketing avenue, it could be anything. But if it's something that you've not been doing before, it's got to fight for its place. So it has to be something that's going to make a difference. And if that means cutting something else off, then so be it. So we were discussing the other day about whether we take out a little piece of the editor and replacing it with this other thing, which potentially allowed people to do the same thing, but not in the same way. And it was an interesting discussion because we were both arguing for the same point. We both wanted the new thing, but I'm saying, can we do both? And Sabrina was saying, maybe that's got to replace that thing. So it was an interesting discussion. And I think it's really important to have somebody in your business or close to it that can push back and isn't afraid to push back on even the best ideas.
Yeah. What's actually the funniest thing that happened lately at Better Proposals?
The funniest thing that happened lately? We got told off by our biggest competitor, Proposify.
Told off?
They came through. I was actually snowboarding. I was coming down in a lift, ski lift, and I just get my phone out, just check. I haven't looked at it for several hours, and I see this intercom chat. So I know I should be intercomming while I'm on holiday, but so I get this chat through. It says, "Oi, get that Proposify article down. It's rude." I'm like, all right. I said, "Oh, you should see the one they wrote about us." And they said, "Yeah, well, when we do it, it's cute." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right." so I'm like, all right. So yeah, I had a little chat. I don't know who it was there, but obviously one of their team or whatever. So I had a little chat and said, "Yeah, it's like we're not going to take it down, but you're not going to take ours down either. So stop your moaning." But no, it's fine. But I suppose that's probably the most amusing thing, really. That's how sad things are sometimes. But yeah, no, I mean, from a pure business point of view, that's quite funny. I mean, some of the interactions we have with customers are quite funny. But yeah, I mean, it's like somebody asked Sabrina recently how she needed to delete some text from a template, and Sabrina's like, "Oh, just highlight it and delete it." Yeah, how do I do that? So we're like, how do you say, like, press the delete key on your keyboard?
Yeah,
she's like, well, she did in the end. She's like, we just on your keyboard, just press the delete button and it will go, and then you can type what you want. She's like, okay, which button is that?
It's the one that says delete.
Sabrina's like, it's near the P, just up and to the right a little bit. Oh, okay, perfect, got it, thanks.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So I don't know whether that's someone just trolling, but it's the sort of thing I might do. But yeah, no, it's that's kind of about as funny as our conversations get. Really, it's quite an amusing one.
A bit more about work life stuff now. How do you manage work life balance? Do you work really late, or do you put a limit? Where do you actually put the limit?
Good question. I don't have limits. That sounds really stupid, but what I mean is there's like, I suppose there's like an internal compass of, yeah, you're pushing it too hard, but often I'm not. So I don't really have, and this is part of a problem actually, I think, but I'm never really completely working or completely switched off.
Okay.
So it's like I'll go snowboarding and check intercom while I'm on a chairlift. Or I don't know, I'll be working and play FIFA at the same time. It's stupid stuff like that, and it sounds really stupid and kind of immature, but in a way, I think that's probably in some ways a victim, or is caused by the fact that I work from home. So I'm working in my living room. So that's a choice thing though. Like, I could go and get an office. There's absolutely nothing to stop us doing that. But last time we did that, we just didn't find it to be any more productive than anything else. So well, actually, kind of, what's the point? So we didn't bother. And yeah, Sabrina feels the same. So, she doesn't bother doing that. So she works from her place. I work from my place, and that's how we've done things. And we're a remote company as well. So like, we don't have, we've got people in Brazil, in America, and all over Europe and whatever. So to have like there's no centralized place that could exist anyway. So we're a completely remote company, and I think a lot of that is, I don't know. I think my personal ability to actually sort of separate my work and my leisure life is pretty poor. Probably one of the things I'm worst at. The one time of the week I do actually truly completely separate my work and my leisure life, if you like, is when I play football. That's it.
Yeah.
It's the only time. So I get like an hour a week where I'm completely and utterly unplugged, no phone, no nothing.
For the Americans, that's soccer, or?
Yeah, soccer to the Americans. Sorry, yeah, got to cater for that. Yeah, so I just stand in goal most of the time, get cold, but
You're
I'm a goalkeeper. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, I'm not fit enough to be an outfield player.
No. Is that the way you stay mentally and physically fit? Is it football, or are there any other ways you use to manage stress levels? And
I think it's interesting. Stress levels is kind of an interesting one because when you've got most causes of stress are mostly because of money for most people. Like it's the first major cause of stress. But beyond that, I don't know. I think managing that, it manages itself when you've got a business that's profitable and you've got recurring income. So like how so much has got to go wrong for us to be in trouble. It's unreal. I'm not going to say it will never happen because it probably will at some point. And that thought keeps me grounded. But in terms of actually managing stress levels, I don't really find I get stressed. So I actually enjoy like everything we're doing. And I don't know, maybe a little bit of stress would probably be a good thing for me in a way, because I'd probably be pushing myself a little bit more. So, and that sounds like a weird way to answer it because most people would answer like, oh, this is how I manage my stress. I don't, because I don't really have any. So
you probably set up your company in a way that it kind of minimizes stress, because as soon as you get like VCs on board or you start hiring more people, that's when the stress really begins, I think.
Yeah, I agree completely. And it's funny actually that even in the last couple of weeks, I'm sitting there working on something myself and I'm like, oh, I wonder what Maya's doing. Oh, has Trixie done that yet? You know, and I'm like, oh, these are all these tasks that I just started assigning to people. And I didn't have those problems even just 3 months ago. I was just doing my own thing and that was it. Whereas now I've started outsourcing a lot of stuff and trying to free up my own time so I can be a little bit more effective in the areas that I'm needed. You're right. I mean, even that is, I wouldn't call it stress, but it's another concern. It's another thought I didn't have that sort of crops up every now and again. Like, oh, have I actually given her feedback on that? Interesting. Have I set Zach up on the next set of templates? No. Right. Okay. I need to actually do that. Otherwise he doesn't know how to do it. So yeah, it's, I wouldn't call it a stress, but it's another thing to think about. And that's, I guess, that's growing, isn't it? But yeah, no, you've made a really good point actually. Like we have just set things up in a way that doesn't really, it's sort of a stress-free environment really. You know, if something's stressful, well, why is it? The most stressful thing that happened recently was our server ran out of disk space in the middle of the night. So it crashed and I weirdly woke up and looked at my phone. You can tell me off for that being a bad thing, but it's a good job I picked it up. But yeah, I picked it up and I got an email from the hosting company saying, oh, your disk space is at 95%. And then, and then basically went straight over the limit thing. So that's probably the biggest piece of stress that's happened in the last, couple of, well, maybe years. Yeah. In a weird way. Yeah.
Apart from soccer and working, what do you like to spend your time on?
See, I don't know because
okay.
I don't watch films. I watch football. I'm a big Barcelona fan. So, how about this one for work-life balance? I don't do anything if it clashes with a Barca game.
Okay.
If something clashes with a Barca game, I don't do it. So in my calendar, I've got all of Barcelona's football games. And if somebody wants a phone call, well, my Calendly isn't available because there's a game on. I can't do it. So like, there's no possible way that I miss a Barcelona game. I'm not like, I actually wouldn't mind missing the odd game. It's something that I've decided is important, and there should be that cut-off point. So whether I actually care about that particular match or not is irrelevant. It's more the fact that there is that time when no one can get me, and that's just something that I just decided, and that's in terms of other stuff, I mean, I do go on quite a lot of trips and holidays and stuff like that. So that's something that I look forward to. There's always something in the diary. There's always a trip or whatever. I prefer longer trips. So instead of going and doing 3 days and then doing a city break or something, I mean, I know I came to see you guys the other day. And that was the shortest trip I've taken in ages. It's just like a 5-day trip. That's pretty rare for me. Usually it's much, much, much longer, and there's, make sure that we can, I can work and do my stuff while I'm away. I try and mix the two, really, I suppose, if I had to answer properly.
If you would sell better proposals for a ton of money and you could spend your life the way you wanted, would you go about traveling, or what would you do?
Yeah, see, I don't know. I really don't know. I think I'd have to do I'd have to do something.
Yeah.
Similar to what I'm doing now, because I don't know. Like, the perfect day for me has something where I get out of the house. I have to do some meaningful work and move something forward. Something that's completely disconnected from work. So, it might be 20 minutes of watching a quick TV program, or it could be playing football or watching a football game or something like that. Seeing my family, going out for coffee somewhere, like something physical, something outdoor, moving work forward in some way or another. And then having, I don't know, some sort of like social communication with somebody, be that sort of a quick chat with a friend, or just sort of texting a girl or something, like something that's just completely not work related and is completely social. But that would, trying to get as many of those little things in a day as possible. If you go too many days in a row without any one of those things, things start to get a little bit weird.
Yeah. Where are you actually based?
I'm in Brighton.
And what's Brighton known for?
Gays.
Gays.
Brighton is known for gays. It is known for being a little bit of a weird, sort of kooky place. It's not completely odd to walk through the centre of Brighton and having, someone with green, spiky hair and pink tights on and a beard. That is not that weird in Brighton.
Okay. It's at the sea, right?
Yeah. For anybody that doesn't know, if you know where London is, or you can find that on a map, just draw a line from London directly down until you get to the sea. That's Brighton.
Oh, okay. Is it a good place to have your startup?
Yeah, we don't take anywhere near as much of an advantage of it, because there's, Brighton SEO is one of the biggest SEO conferences in the world, and that takes place about 8 minutes from where I live. So we don't take anywhere near enough of an advantage of that. I'm sure there's tons of little startup communities and things like that in Brighton that we could, contribute to and get involved in. But I don't know.
Are there any other cool startups that we should know that are based in Brighton?
There's a Medium publication called the Happy Startup School, and that's based in Brighton. Those guys run like I suppose it's like a co-working space, but then it's also, they do like conferences and bits like that, the little retreats and things. It does look pretty cool, actually. Those guys are based in Brighton. Trying to think of some other stuff that's based here. There's some big agencies. Fresh Egg are a big agency. They're based in Worthing, which is about 5 miles the opposite direction of Brighton. But yeah, there's I don't know, actually. I'm sure there's some other. The guy, do you know the accounting software Cashflow?
Cash what?
Cashflow, KASH Flow. They've sort of been pretty much overtaken by Xero now, but they got like a pink logo, but they were really, really, really big a few years ago. And the founder of Cashflow, he lives in Brighton.
Okay.
To
finalize a few learnings, what's the latest good book you've read, and why did you choose to read it?
I haven't read a book in ages, but my favorite business book is Rework by the guys over at Basecamp. That's by far my favorite book.
Why is that?
Because it's all actionable. There is no fluff in that thing at all. It's all short essays. Like, it's like reading 25 blog posts. So each one is completely an independent thought, and you can either agree with it or not agree with it. And you don't find yourself saying, ironically, I just have, but like, Rework is a good book. You don't need to say that, because it's like 7 of those articles in that book might change everything for you, and the rest of them might be completely irrelevant. But because it's split up into sort of different sections, it's focused around a simple theme of rethink the way that you're working.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's as like direct as the title gets, and everything else after that is just independent thoughts. But really, really, really good book. Super easy to read. Super quick to read. Well presented.
Actually, when we started out, the first book that Lieven, my co-founder, and I we read was Getting Real, also by 37 Signals. And that was basically our handbook in the beginning to organize the way we would go about business.
Yeah, we used a similar thing. We did exactly the same thing. It's Getting Real is brilliant, and Rework's good. I think they got a new book coming out soon.
I never read Rework.
Have you never read it? I'm
gonna have a look at it.
Do it, man. It's really good. It's really, really good. It's a really great book. I mean, lots of it is things. If you've been following those guys, it's standard stuff. Don't have meetings. You do your best work where you do your best work. That's different for everyone. That kind of stuff. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that probably echoes a lot of what I've been talking about today, actually. But it's a really, really, really good book. Lots of simple little things you can just pick up, and you don't have to spend like 3 days reading a book. It's very quick.
Is there anything you'd wish you'd have known when you started out?
It's quite difficult because you only know what you know at the time, and I'm sort of a firm believer that you should know stuff when it's right to know it, and telling you that
I agree
before is kind of unhelpful. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's lots of things that I'd look back on myself and say, oh, if I'd done that earlier, then that would have been better.
Yeah.
Like we've recently started paying attention to competitor pages, comparison pages. I mean, that would have been great if we'd done that a year ago. But really, we're only now at a point where our brand is strong enough to be able to actually get in the same conversation as some of those guys. So it's kind of pointless to do it before. So everything happens. It sounds like really weird and kooky, but everything happens for a reason in that respect. And you learn it when it's right to learn it. All the time you're moving forward, you'll just pick stuff up at the right time. So yes, there's certain things that you could do sooner. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, it's stupid stuff, man. Like, I wish I tagged certain things in Intercom earlier. I've got no idea who's got what template. It doesn't help me target anybody. Like, if I've got information for SEO consultants, I've got no idea how to go around targeting those people. It's little things like that, but there's no real major stuff I wouldn't have said, because I don't feel like if somebody had said to me, oh, you should do X, I probably wouldn't have done it anyway.
Yeah.
Don't know. Bad answer. Maybe.
Start over. Would there be anything you would have done significantly differently, or just no regrets?
I don't think it's a case of. There's nothing that stands out that was sort of significantly like, oh, we totally wasted a year on this or that. I mean, I think we gave up I think when it comes down to it, is I've had a very clear idea of where I wanted to take this business right from the beginning. So I knew very, very, very early on that I wanted automated income. It needed to be based on people buying a product or something of that nature. And that's it. It should not be dependent on my time or anybody's time that I'm paying. And that was something that was really, really important to me. So everything that we've done for the last 10 years as a business has been gearing us towards that point. So from going from designing websites to designing software, which is slightly more rentable than a website is, and so slightly more custom and people more locked in, to shifting away from that and into the products, to moving from the products into better proposals, and then finally shutting out everything else down. I think we probably got it about right. I mean, I think if we'd done any of that any sooner, we would have been stupid. Like if we cut off our client services business like super early, we wouldn't have had any money to build Better Proposals the way we have. And if we hadn't have built it with the quality that we did, then it wouldn't be the product it is today, and wouldn't have been able to withstand, the 5,000 odd people we brought on with AppSumo, and the several thousand odd we've done since then and before as well. So we wouldn't have been able to do that or done as good of a job of anything actually. So I don't know, I don't want to sort of like get out of it and be like, oh, we've never made any mistakes, of course, but I think in terms of general process, and I think we've pretty much got it about right.
Cool. Final question. What's the best piece of advice you ever got?
Best piece of advice I ever got. I can't remember. It's probably a Steve Jobs thing, let's be honest. I don't know if it's any one piece of advice that any person has given me, but just don't do shit you don't want to do. I mean, people have said this in various different ways and whatever, but just don't do anything you don't want to do, because I mean, look, you have to sometimes, but there's better be a big picture for it. So like, if you're going to do one shit thing that's going to lead you to 10 good things, maybe that's worth it. But maybe put better, don't do anything consistently you don't want to do, for any sort of length of time, because it's just not worth it. It drains all of your creativity. It drains all of your energy. To do stuff you don't want to do is just, it's soul sucking. I mean, anybody that's building a side business on like outside of their day job, I mean, I have absolute massive respect for anybody that's doing that and doing it well, because to go through the 9 to 5 thing and leave work drained and then come home and start coding a new project or start marketing a project or writing or whatever it is that you're doing. I mean, to do that after getting your energy sucked out of you all day is absolutely massive. So massive respect to anybody that's doing that. I mean, I'm pretty sure I couldn't at this point, but yeah, just don't do stuff you don't want to do. That's probably the number one thing I'd say. Everything else stems from that. And look, remember, it's your life. Try not to have too many things that are pulling you in directions you don't want to go in. I mean, I've been super lucky in that I've got an incredibly supportive co-founder who knows when to go along with my stupid mental ideas and when to go, Adam, just get on with your work and stop being such an idiot, and has found that balance as well. So yeah, having good people around you is equally as important, I think.
That's it for this episode of Founder Coffee. We hope you liked it. Let the world know if you did. Thanks for listening, guys.